Okay, right now you're going to be sport for choice again, like I always do during my course. Okay, I'm going to give you two options to do. I'm going to show you how to do two methods of facings, which is a typical conventional way of finishing off necklines and armholes, and bias bindings, which I prefer to do. I don't really like doing facings, but I am going to show you the facings, so you can choose between facings and bindings. Okay, so I'll just show you my little dress I made for Dolly. You can see, remember, I prefer not to use overlocking, so I used all Hong Kong seam finishes, but so you can opt for that if you want. It's a lot of work, but anyway, you can see I put binding inside on this collar. Of course, we're not going to do a collar for this dress. It's going to be a classic collarless dress, sheath dress. Okay, but the beauty of we're going to put a bias binding on around the neck, so that's how it will finish. And also, of course, I put it around the armholes. Can you see? I put it around the armholes here. So that's actually inside the armhole, and I'm going to show you this method as well. The beauty of this can actually be raised, so it can actually peek out here, and you can have a little piping edge. So I'm going to show you that way, and I'm going to show you the conventional facing way as well. So you can decide and practice both methods, okay? Now, we're going to cut a facing from the neck. So I've actually just, so when you do it, get your neck and just place it. Some people, when they're actually making, they actually cut the facings out when they cut the patterns out, but I never do that because invariably neck stretches, okay, neckline stretches, your seams might be slightly less than originally, so when you cut out your facing, it won't be accurate, okay, it won't be exact to the same measurement you've actually made the dress. And also the neckline always stretches anyway. So just place your neck in its position. I pin it down, okay? So you'll get an accurate how it's going to be, okay? Just how it's going to be, you know, you don't need to. Okay, so just, it might be a little bit fiddly, but I'm going to show you a couple of methods so you can see. Okay, so that's how it's going to finish here. And always put your, you know, that will go in normally. I'll just bring this in a bit here. Where your zipper is, that will go in, but bring it out to how the full neckline is, okay? Bring that out, okay? Now some people will, before they put the zipper in, they'll do the neckline, sort it all out, but you know, they'll actually probably cut the facings or at the beginning when they're cutting everything out, but I never do. I only cut the facings out at the end because I can see now I'll put the shoulders in, I can actually see how this neckline is going to be, okay? So just get it in a kind of position you think. Now, I don't like this neckline edge, so I would actually, there's my back neckline, so I'd actually just shape it a little bit more, and this is what I do, and this is what, just use your eye, and I'll bring it out a little bit more, and I'll bring it back in, and that's fine. So I would actually start to shape it a little bit better, okay? So, and if you're happy with the neckline, you know, you don't need to do that. So you can do that, okay? So you can actually, one side, so I want it symmetrical, okay? Now, if your sewing is accurate, you should get it totally symmetrical, right? So now I'm going to trim that off there. So I'm just going to put these together, okay? So I'm just bringing this up here so you can see better. So put the neckline in half now, okay? So the edges will go exactly together, okay? All right, so I'm going to show you, you can draw patterns this way or the full neck way. You can decide, okay? So just make sure both sides are exactly together, okay? The edges and edges, okay? Exactly. And then just pin that temporarily, okay? In place. And just go along. Make sure these seams, if it's accurate, if you've stitched accurately, the seams should be exactly accurate, okay? You're on your shoulder seam, so try and match that up first, okay? And then just go to, and then the rest, just go, and that's the centre front. Sometimes I'll baste it in, you know. I always baste things, but sometimes I'll baste it, but I'll just pin this for now. So, and now, and actually pin it on the side you're actually going to cut it from, okay? So there we go. So I'll place that down here now, okay? So you can see now where I'm going to cut, okay? See, remember I chalked my line. So I'm just going to just recut that neck because I didn't like that neckline. So of course, you know, when you've stitched things up, you go, oh, that neckline. So, because I'm just doing a standard round neckline, I'm just going to just retrim that a little bit there. Okay. I need to get my scissors, my big scissors. That's fine. Okay. So I'm just going to retrim this little bit here. Okay. So just come here. Just be careful, okay. So I'm just going to trim this, retrim. If the neckline looked okay in the first place, I wouldn't have trimmed it up, but I didn't like that kind of run. So always just check the run. There we go. And I think that's okay now. Just trim this off a little bit here. Just keep looking at it. And if you think you've got to slightly adjust it, and adjust it, okay? That's fine now. Okay. So we got that. So if you're happy with your neckline, you don't need to cut it, but you can see I put it together, and now both sides will be exactly accurate, okay? Now, you can actually do your pattern this way now, okay? All right, so keep it together. So I'm going to put the pins back in there, okay? Just make sure that seam is, the shoulder seam's exactly married, okay? And just don't stretch it. Remember, we put some tape in, but even so, you don't want to be stretching it, okay? So, now, you can get the shape onto pattern paper or fabric. So, we'll do both. So, it'll just be, so you can understand it better, okay? So, we'll get on to the next stage. Okay, right, I've just got some scrap paper. Just fold it over, right? Okay, can you see? It's folded over. And then I'm going to show you a few ways so you can experiment, okay? Get your half pinned, right? Just make sure you don't, just put it in how it's going to be. Don't start to stretch things, okay? So put that where that centre front will be, because remember to make sure you've pinned your seams and the shoulders exactly together. That's the most important thing, okay? So I've pinned it exactly together, the actual shoulders. Let me just show it to you so you can see. I'm just going to do a close-up shot here. So you can see here, they're exactly together, the shoulder seams. So make sure they're pinned together, all right? That's the most important thing, and everything else should be hunky-dory, okay? I'm going to just show you a few ways so you can decide. Okay, so, and then that's where your centre front is. So place that there, pin that down, okay? Let's bring this back out again so you can see, okay? The whole neck. Right, okay. So I put this onto fabric usually, but I'm going to show you the pattern paper way you can do it as well. So just pin this down. Pin this down. So don't start stretching things, just let it how it's going to be, okay? Where the zip is, okay? So just where it's naturally going to curve. Don't start to stretch it here and there, just let it lie the way it's going to lie, okay? And it'll be accurate, okay? And just pin that down. And then all you do is just get your Sharpie. I'll get my Sharpie. Okay, I've got my Sharpie. And then just, remember, little dashes around. You can mark your shoulder line just as a balance point, and then just where your exact, I don't go far, I go there, that's where it finishes. So I can see my edge underneath the zip. There it is, okay? Or you can use your zip, it doesn't really matter. Some pattern cutters and designers, they'll just cut two pieces out. They'll cut to the shoulder, and then they'll cut another piece out the back. I don't like that way. You can do that. If you're short of material, just mark it to the thingy, and then separate it, and then do another piece. And then you got two pieces. Then you got your front to the shoulder, it's a separate piece, and then you got your. I don't like that way, but I'm just letting you know you can do it that way. If you're short of fabric, you can actually do it in two pieces. Okay, so there we go. So let's take this off. And what we're going to do now is, How wide? It depends. I like it kind of narrow. I don't like, you know, if the facing's inside, that's why I don't usually use facing. I don't like, I think they're quite ugly. So the average will be about 4 or 5 centimetres, okay? Now don't forget, you've got to have a seam off this. Remember, the neck is going to be stitched, so you've got to have a seam. So if we put, say we can put the finish will be, say, 4 or 5 centimetres. We'll finish it at 4 centimetres, okay? And then we'll put a seam in, okay? Where it's going to be. So we'll do this at 4.5 centimetres. You can actually have a facing at 5 centimetres, okay? But I like to have a bit narrow. So we'll mark this at 4.5 centimetres, okay? So just where you've just done your thing, you just mark it at 4.5 centimetres around, okay? Okay, the edge where that, remember, okay? So 4.5. Just come around 4.5. So experiment with your different width facings, okay? It's the only way you can kind of work things out, okay? And then, of course, I use my chalk. You can use your French curve, but I just use my chalk, okay? Now, when I'm putting facings, people don't tell you this. When you turn it inside out, you've got to be careful. This is going to be actually inside. That's why it's called a face, and it faces the inside of the dress or whatever you're going to be using. You've got to make sure this actually, there's a slight bit of ease in this. It's not going to be tight when it flips inside. So I deliberately make this slightly wider. So there's our finished there. I make it a little bit wider there. I might put about 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch in, okay? And the reason being, I'm going to ease this back neck line in a little bit, because when you ease it in, when you turn it through, it won't be tight, okay? Because sometimes you'll find it a little bit tight because it's stretched or whatever it's done. So I put a little extra in. They don't tell you about that. I think in a lot of schools, I've learned this from my tailoring aside. When I'm doing trouser waistbands, is that you've got to ease the trouser waistband in, because when you flip the trouser waistband inside the trousers, you've got to have that ease inside. So I do the same for facing. So I just put about 1/4 of an inch or whatever, okay? So this is extra. So this is your finished, but I leave it a little bit extra. You'll see I'm going to ease it in a little bit. So it will just ensure when we turn the facing inside the dress, it won't be tight, okay? Right, so I'm just going to do this now. So here's my chalk, okay? You can use your French curve if you want to, it's fine. And there we have it. There's our facing, okay? So there's your fold. So mark your fold here, fold. Okay, put your little arrow. That's a typical how they do it in the industry, okay? There's your shoulder point, so you can match up the shoulder point, okay? Right, okay, so we can cut this out now. Okay, so I usually staple it and then I cut it out, or you can pin it. It's up to you. If you've got a stapler gun, I'll show you. Okay, right. So remember to do your collar, draw it. I've just drawn it with a chalk, okay? Now I use my quite a long stapler because I use a technique for my shirt when I'm making shirts or cuffs and the collars. I actually use a stapler before I cut them out. So if you haven't, just use pins. So it's to stop it from moving, that's all. And you yank them out afterwards. So we can use pins if you want to, doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to cut these out now. So I'm going to cut this out now. So hopefully you can see this. I should have used my Sharpie, but hopefully you can see this. Let me just go a bit closer, okay? I should have used black chalk. You can use different coloured chalk, which I've got. But hopefully you can. So make sure that's squared off here. Remember that 1/4 of an inch. And then it should be fine. Good to go. Just cut some of this off so I can do it easily, okay? So I'm just cutting that 1/4 of an inch out or whatever, it's just over. So I'm going to ease that into the facing, to the neckline. Try both methods, try not the easy one and see, you'll see sometimes it can be slightly tight. Okay, so that's one method. Okay, so you can actually do that. So I'm just going to open it up to get my little stapler removal little pliers. Okay, just got my little pliers just to move them out. As I said, if you don't have a stapler gun, just use okay, and there's our, in its full glory. Okay, so that's how you can do it. Okay, now you can also do this way, because sometimes if your stitching is not, if something is stretched on the actual neck and it's not totally symmetrical either side of the neck, one side may be fractionally longer than the other side. That happens sometimes. So what you can do is this way. Just get the neck open again. Okay, just get a nice shape again. Okay, can you see? I'm just getting a nice shape. You put that onto pattern paper. Okay. Let me just bring this out so you can see. Okay. So you put that onto pattern paper. Just make sure that is how it's going to be. Okay. Okay. So I would actually pin this down so it doesn't move, especially where the zip is. Remember, you've got to open the zip. Remember, that's really important. You've got to get the full width. Okay, so I would actually, you can draw it that way as well, okay? Because sometimes there might be a slight discrepancy between there and there. So this way ensures, just make sure the shape is exactly how it is. So then I would make sure, so you can do it this way as well, okay? So you can experiment. So you can actually, I'd put this on the fabric. Usually I cut it on fabric, so I'm going to show you how to cut it on fabric as well. So then I would just trace around there, the whole of that width, okay? There, right on the edge of there. And then you've got your pattern paper, you've got your exact shape as well, there. Sometimes I may do this way if there's a slight discrepancy between the both sides, okay? Maybe in your sewing, maybe this seam may be slightly wider than that one. You know, you may have stretched a little bit as you were stitching it. Okay, so that's a foolproof method. You can actually do that as well, okay? So you can try them both ways, okay? Right, I'm going to show you the fabric way. It's the same way. Okay, I'm showing you the fabric way. So remember, make sure the seams of the shoulders are matched up exactly. That is really, really important, okay? And just pin that in place. And then just go along, don't stretch anything, just go along how it is and just pin it and just nicely, just be careful. Okay, don't stretch anything, don't force anything, okay? And then you just, okay? And then we'll just go to the back here. And there we have it, okay? Make sure you open out the zips, don't have them tucked in. You want the full width. And there we have it, okay? And then what I would do, place this, get some fabric, just press it nicely. Okay, that's the wrong side, that's good. So then you just mark your wrong side. Always try and get into the habit of marking your wrong side with a little cross, okay? And then just gently crease that, because you need to get that crease out afterwards anyway. But so then place that here. Hopefully we've got enough there. Yeah, we have. See, so place the fold of your front to the fold of the fabric, okay? And then I will just pin that down just through the fabric. Okay. I don't use pattern paper. I just go straight onto fabric. But you know, you can do it this way. If you're going to make a few dresses that way, then you can just make the patterns, okay? So just do it as if how it's going to position itself. Don't start stretching it here and there, okay? It's wrong. Okay, and then I'll just chalk mark it. Make sure your chalk is sharp, okay? There we go. Take this off. And then I don't need to pither around with the fabric, with the pattern, placing it onto fabric. It's already out there, okay? And then I'll just get my little ruler. Here. Remember, I'm going to place about 1/4 of an inch past it, remember? So I'm going to ease it in. So I ensure the facing, when it's turned through, it's not going to be tight, okay? And then I'll just put 4.5 centimetres. You can put 5 centimetres in whatever you want to, okay? So there we go, 4.5 centimetres. Just go around. 4.5. 4.5. And there we go, Bob's your uncle. Well, he was last time I seen him. There you go, all right? Okay, and then just carefully chalk mark, if you can. I just stagger it when I'm going around here. See, a little stagger it. It's just easier to navigate the curves. Okay. So just do that nicely. Okay. There we go. Okay. And that's your collaring. Then just pin it before you cut it out. You don't want it to move, okay? Now, if I'm doing these facings on round necklines, I always put a Hong Kong binding. I put binding around the edge. It looks lovely when it's inside. So you can do that. I don't like the overlock, because now after we've got to fuse it. We've got to stabilise it, okay? So that's what we've got to do now. So just cut this out now. All right, just cut this out. Usually I use my bigger scissors, but I can use the smaller scissors. So we're going to fuse this now. Get some, they call it interfacing, but I call it fusing. Same thing, okay? We get some good quality, get some woven. Don't get those cheap, nasty cardboard style you get from the haberdashery. Go to Tailor's Trims and ask for fusing. Get different weights, okay? And they're woven. The other ones are not woven, so they're really stiff. You want something that's it's like woven art fabric, it's woven. So you can get some fusibles that are actually woven, and all mine are actually woven. So I'm going to show you anyway, which I think I've already showed you, I think. I'm not sure if I've showed you or not, but anyway. So that's the wrong side, okay? Remember, I always mark the wrong side with the cross. And there is your neck facing, okay? And there we have it. Now, we could have marked in the, I'm going to just mark in the shoulder, so just for a reference point when we were actually putting it round. I didn't do it on this one, so I just quickly, have I got it here? Where has it gone? There it is, okay. Take the fabric out of the way. So I'm just going to just put this back here. I forgot to put my my shoulder reference there, so it's fine, no problem. So there it is, just put it and then mark it in. So it's good to have your shoulder reference so you know where it is when you're actually stitching, okay? There we go. That's my reference. I'm just remember, we're only doing 1/2 centimetre seam, so don't notch it, just notch it very tiny, okay? And there it is on the other side, just a very small, and that's it. And there we have it. There's your neck facing, okay? Now I'm going to fuse this, so we're going to the next stage now. We're going to fuse this, and then we can overlock it. I'll overlock it for now, and then maybe I'll show you. I've showed you how to do the Hong Kong finish anyway, so just experiment doing a Hong Kong finish on the with some bias binding with some beautiful contrasting lining, and you do that before you stitch it on. Okay. Right, I'm going to show you a very simple way of cutting out a fusing and then the interfacing and then placing it on top of the actual neck facing. Okay, so if we get I'm using my lovely woven fusing, my woven interfacing. Okay, now don't forget your woven interfusions have got a grain like fabric, so you have to put it on the grain. Okay, very important. Alright, so I don't want to be wasting too much of this, so we'll just use the other side. Alright, just cut some of this off. So yeah, so I prefer to use, if you can try and get some woven fusible interfacing, then you can't go wrong. Okay. So I'm just going to put that there. I'll just bring this out a little bit here. Just make sure we've got enough. Yeah, we have, that's fine. So you know my neck fusing, my neck facing, okay? So I never cut this out because afterwards I'm going to place it on the fabric and we're going to cut out. So just use, you don't need to use half because remember it's symmetrical. So get the half of the fold and place it on the fold of your fusing, okay? We're going to cut out double. It's on the double, so bring this down. So, and then once you're happy with that, let's bring this out for you here. Bring this out so you can see it all, okay? Okay, there we go. So, and then just pin it in place, okay? So pin this facing in place so it doesn't move. Right, okay, that's all we need. And we're just going to dash our lines around. I need to sharpen my chalk, but it should be fine for now. Always try and make sure if you're using chalk, it's always sharp, okay? I'm just going to do little dashes because that's fine. It's just quick and easy. More efficient when you're just doing this, especially when you're just marking out fusings. So, just going to just mark around there. See, I didn't put my pin in there. So always make sure your pins are in, okay? Very important. See, even I make mistakes sometimes, so just make sure you got enough pins in there, okay, that's fine. So, just chalk mark around it. Put your shoulder notch, there's your shoulder notch there, I can see it. No, we don't need the shoulder notches. You only put the shoulder notch for your facing. So don't worry about that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, take that out. Now, because this is on the double, just put a few pins in there just to hold it in place whilst you are cutting out. So the edges so it won't move. Because it can like displace. So you don't want that to happen. Okay. So then we'll just cut it out. Okay. Remember, use your tip of your scissors when you navigating curves. It's just easier. See that? There we go. There we go. Always keep your little bits of fusing in the little, because you'll need them for things. I use them for trousers and whatever. Bits and bobs of when I'm doing suits and stuff, so I always have a bag and put them in a little bag of little fusible fusings. Okay, so there we have it. So now just place that aside there, that's fine. So we have our neckline fusing there. So there we have it. So now, this is very lightweight. I could have used it because my wool dress is quite lightweight. So I would have used slightly heavy because you need to stabilise the actual facing. Okay. Now, This is on the wrong side because you can see there's my right side of the selvage. So remember to always use your wrong side. Just press that out there. Remember, we're on the grain. You have to be on the grain, okay? Remember, and always use your cross to mark that it's the wrong side, okay? And then all we do is put cut enough fabric out. It can, you got enough for the actual facing to actually place it on, okay? Okay. And just put it how it's going to be. Don't stretch anything, just, all right? And that seems okay there now. That's all right, it's fine. And then just dry press that in place, just hold that in place. Okay. Remember, don't iron it, just you lift up and put down, okay? You don't want to be stretching anything, especially neck facings. Okay, that's fine. And now we're gonna melt the glue, okay? So about 5 seconds or something. So you got to tack, it's like you're tacking this in place, so just make sure you got enough. That doesn't move. Okay, so we'll just carry on. So I'll just steam it all as I go along, and afterwards I'm going to dry press it. Remember to lift it up. You can see how I'm lifting up the iron and placing it back on. I'm not doing this because you'll stretch it, okay? Never ever do that. So I'm just picking up and placing it back on. That's fine now. Now I'll just dry press it. 5-10 seconds. Make sure your iron setting is not on too high. It's got to go with the fabric. You don't burn it, so always be careful, okay? Just test it on a small little piece of fabric, okay? And this is the easiest way to actually put a neck face in a fusible, because it'll only work. You gotta have a fusible interfacing, okay? And the beauty of this, it won't stretch the fabric. So now we cut out. It's simple. So we just cut round the edge. You can do this. I've got some lovely Indian and Pakistani tailors. They do this way when they're making intricate neck designs. On the dress itself, they don't cut the neckline out, and they'll cut the neckline in this fusible interfacing, and then I'll place this on the neck of the dress. The dress is all complete. There's no neckline cut out, and then I'll stitch accordingly, and then they trim it afterwards, and they turn it through, and it's great. It's a lovely finish. So, you know. So. So I suggest this way is a very simple way, okay? I'm actually doing the a fusible facing. The conventional way, I'm not going to show the conventional. I'll just briefly, just quickly, because I don't like doing the conventional way, but I'm just going to quickly show you how they would do conventional way. And there we have it, okay? So, easy peasy lemon squeezy, okay? So this is the fusible facing, and it's an easy way. Now, the conventional way, they'll cut they'll get the cloth, place your facing on the cloth, cut it out, then they'll get the fusing, the interfacing, cut that, place it on top and iron it on. It's a bit laborious, and you could stretch onto the fabric, so you've got to be a bit careful. This way is a very simple way, as you can see, very quick, easy way, okay? So I suggest you go and practice this way, okay? And then all you do was you'd have to just mark the put that place back on, mark where your thing's going to go, you know, your shoulder point's going to go, and your center line is going to go. Okay, so there we have it. So I'm just going to quickly show you something I made earlier. This is the neck facing I made. Okay, so you can see the bias binding. Okay, and if I'm going to do neck facing, which I don't often do, I just usually bind it, bias bind it. I will always use a binding. It just looks nicer inside the facing. I'm going to show you the other methods to finish off the actual neck facing, overlocking and turning it under like an edge stitch. And then I'm going to show you a variation of this way, where it's raw and then you just trim it off, and that's way. But I like this is a very beautiful professional way because the fold is caught in and it's all nicely put in. Okay, so I'm going to show you a variation of this. Okay, so we're going to do this way first, and then I'll show you a variation of that way, and then we'll do the overlocking facings afterwards.